I have with me prominent journalist Palki Sharma. She is now the founder and director of India Global Review. Thank you, Palki, for joining us. My first question to you is that you've been part of some of the biggest newsrooms in India. Why did you feel that you needed to start on your own, a new venture of your own?
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. And this is a good question. I think at this stage of career, people like me usually either buy a farmhouse or start playing golf. I've made more questionable choices. But on a more serious note, yes, you're right. I have worked with some of the most outstanding organizations and colleagues in this industry, and I have learned so much from them. I think I truly enjoy building things, and I think the most rewarding phases of my career was my time with First Post and Beyond. And that's because those were platforms that me and my team built. We did not inherit them, we created them. And that's a completely different journey and a very exciting journey. So I would say that IGR is in a way a continuation of that journey. We hope to take the learnings that we've had over the past 2 decades in terms of what we understand about storytelling, technology, journalism, audiences, and use it to create something with more freedom and a lot more responsibility, I would say.
Right. Do you think we have seen the existing media is doing a lot of content, global content as well. What is IGR trying to solve which they cannot solve according to you?
I think the approach is not, I wouldn't focus on what others are not doing or doing. I would much rather focus on what I want to do, what the team with me wants to do, and what we can do well. Yes, there is more interest in international affairs, which is a good thing. But I think that news cycles are still being dominated by content that gets more eyeballs, that has a shorter shelf life. We track trends. We're looking to build something that is more long term, with more depth and clarity, and that is what we hope to do. We are not claiming that we are not reinventing journalism. We are not coming up with a completely new way of telling stories. We are relying on a more older way of doing things with patience, with clarity, with consistency, and do more of it. That's the mission.
Do you think India can build news networks which can rival, say, a BBC, a CNN? Is this the right time? Does India have that kind of narrative to build something which can counter what we are witnessing? We are being defined by their narrative. Do you think we can build our own voice right now?
We definitely can, and we should. But it won't happen overnight. You mentioned the BBC. The BBC is 100 years old. Platforms like The Economist, 200 years old. It takes time. Institutions start as efforts, and then when you do the same thing consistently, you earn credibility. So can India do it? Absolutely. Will we create something like that tomorrow? Maybe not. It is going to take time, but that is not the reason for us to not do it, because if not now, then when? India is at that place. India needs that voice. India has the talent. India has the resources. We just need to think long term and invest.
You have worked, as I said, with the biggest of the biggest organizations. What is that one lesson that you do not want to repeat in your venture?
I think there's going to be a lot of learning. It's very easy to say that this is what someone did right and this is what they did wrong in hindsight, and when you're not in their place, when you're not tasked to do that. So yes, I've built newsrooms, yes, I've led teams, but running a business is a different ball game. I think that what I want to do, what I hope to do, is to make sure that my growth is always aligned with my purpose. because the business of media is under pressure, revenue models are under pressure. There is a push to do more sponsored content, branded content, which is all fine. You know, you have to make money to pay salaries, right? But where do you draw the line? And are you just talking about a product because it's newsworthy, or are you becoming a part of the product strategy for them to sell it? I think that's what you need to distinguish. So I think it's very important for me to ensure that while we chase growth, while we chase numbers, while we chase revenue, the larger purpose remains very clear to us, and we remain consistent and committed to it.
Right. You know, we've also seen over the past few years the rise of journalist-led media companies. You know, it's not like a network-led media companies. Do you think this trend is here to stay? Is it giving journalism a new meaning altogether? How do you see this rise of individual brand-led journalism rather than a network loyal journalism, you know?
I think we can coexist. I think individuals are taking the plunge because the entry barrier has never been lower. Today, technology has given everyone a shot at it. I mean, if you have a phone and if you have a steady internet connection, you can reach audiences simply because you have your content is solid. You know, that's all that you need. You need the voice, you need the conviction. Having said that, I think that there is a place for institutions. Mm-hmm. And as there is so much information, there's a glut of information and AI slop. Going forward, as I see it, I think the winning formula will be institutional credibility, mm-hmm, paired with strong individual voices.
Right. You know, also in this age of algo-driven stories, do you think we are too disconnected from real reporting? The newsroom has become algo-dependent and too far removed from real reporting, on-ground reporting?
I think the challenge with real reporting is that real reporting requires investment. It requires money, and that pressure is being felt across the board. But algorithms, it depends on how you use it. AI is here to stay. Technology is here to stay. You cannot wish it away. You should not fight it. It's a tool. You have to learn how to use that tool. So if algorithms completely start dictating the news flow, then all we'll see on news channels would be cats and celebrity breakups. Thank God it's not happening. We are doing other things, right? And we will continue to do that, because the whole point of journalism is to be curious about things, to be able to knock on doors, to ask people about things that they don't want to talk. A bot will not do that. A bot cannot be part of this conversation and try to read the room and have an emotional presence and understand that this is what I'm saying, but this is what I'm hiding. That instinct, that understanding is inherently human. So if anyone's completely depending on AI to dictate what news should be, they're making a mistake. I think there is a place for AI. They help you optimize, they help you improve your workflow, but at the end of the day, bots are not journalists. And we must keep that difference in mind.
You know, a lot of people say often that media has lost public trust. Do you think that journalism has failed, or the public has really stopped valuing real journalism? How do you see this?
I think it's a bit of both. I think that the industry has problems, and most of us acknowledge those problems, and we have to find a way to solve them. I think people also expect news to be free, which is increasingly difficult. They're dealing with a glut of information. Today, as a news platform, you're not just competing with another news platform. You're competing with everyone who can create content. That can be a video that talks about the latest recipe, that can be the latest beauty hack, that can anything. Everything is content, unfortunately. So there is a glut, and everyone's vying for the same person's attention. So it is a challenge. I think that we need to, the first thing that we need to do is to regain that trust, for people to believe that if something is coming in news, it is not to serve vested purpose, it is because it needs to be said, it needs to be exposed, it needs to be talked about, and it is our responsibility as journalists. We have to make it work.
Right. You know, earlier in my conversation with some journalists, they said we have not been able to build a global voice because people are interested in our own domestic, they're very inward looking. But do you think now people are actually, they really want to hear the global stories, the Hindi speaking audience maybe, the mass, you know, do you think they're also now interested in the global stories as much as they are in the domestic stories kind of, you know, interest them? Do you think we've reached that stage?
I think we were always there. I think this reading was wrong, that people are only interested. People are interested in local affairs for sure. But increasingly, everything that is global is local, and everything that is local is also global. We joked that people who cannot name the street they live on can tell you where the Strait of Hormuz is. Because what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz is affecting their lives, right? Today you switch on, you mentioned Hindi, you switch on any Hindi news channel, you will see so much international news. People are interested because people are connected, because they understand that what happens in the world impacts them directly. Supply chains impact them, China's policies impact them, Washington's decisions impact them. What happens with Venezuelan oil has a bearing on their lives. People understand. I think it's a very flawed notion that that the viewer doesn't get it. The viewer is very smart, especially in India. The Indian viewer is politically very aware. And this whole idea of dumbing down content and giving them only what we think they want is wrong. And that is one of the reasons why people are moving to other things. Today the situation is that people are turning to entertainers for opinion and news, and people are coming to journalists for entertainment. That's where we've arrived.
So if you look at the state of journalism at the moment in India, how would you define it? What worries you about it, and what gives you hope?
What worries me is the lack of trust, that people think that if it's in the news, then it's either wrong or it's not for them, it's serving someone else's purpose. That erosion of trust is a big crisis. What gives me hope is the fact that despite all the bad headlines about the media, there are so many journalists who continue to do great work, who put their lives at risk, who expose the sand mafia, the land mafia, a whole lot of, and we are so focused on what's happening in Delhi and in NCR and, you know, in the big metros. But you look at smaller towns, you look at cities, you look at the number of young people who continue to pick journalism as a career choice despite everything, because they want to say something that they think is important. And that gives me a lot of hope, that there are people who are willing to work for bad pay, for immense insecurity when it comes to jobs, because the job market is very bad in the media industry, as you know, and yet they feel driven by that purpose and they remain journalists.
Right. You know, coming to this, I have an added follow-up question. You know, when Indian news channels cover global events, we have seen they go there initially for 15 days, 1 month, and then the story is left there. Nobody revisits that story after that. At IGR, what are you trying to change as far as, you know, being on top of that story, that narrative, following it to the logical conclusion? Say our journalists were all over the world when Ukraine started, when the West Asia crisis started, but now we hardly see any reporting from there. Is it good? Is it bad? What can become better in our global reporting?
I think to your point of taking a story to a logical conclusion, I think news cycles dictate your priorities. That's not for me to, maybe I like the Ukraine story, but I can't keep putting Ukraine as the top story for 4 years. That war has been around for 4 years. There are other things that have happened. So yes, attention shifts. I think that as journalists, we pick and choose what our focus is, what are the kind of issues that we want to raise. In my previous shows and in the previous organizations, we've made sure that there are some subjects that we want to talk about, whether they make top headlines or not. We raise those issues. There are at any given point more than 30 conflicts in this world. People talk about Ukraine and Gaza and Iran and the big ones, the more exciting ones. But there are a lot of other crises that are unfolding as we speak. So like I said, the news cycle dictates, and you pick and choose what you think is important, and that is what defines your content mix and your positioning as an organization. The Indian media, the people who cover these events, they cover it because at that point it is topical. Now you cannot expect someone to leave a team in Ukraine for 4 long years. I mean, it's not even our war. So I would give them that benefit that they went there when it was a very hot story. But right now it's a war of attrition, and do you want to really invest that kind of resource and money and time into something that is going on and on? And as you know, we lean on agencies to cover it. So, but the overall coverage of international affairs can be better. We can do with less song and dance, less focus on the optics, and more focus on the substance. But that's their call.
Right. Everyone is talking about AI disrupting newsrooms. According to you, what part of journalism will remain untouched, fun and fundamentally human in this kind of AI wave that we're talking about?
What will remain human? I think the core of journalism is curiosity and empathy. How do you start a story? By asking questions. Why did this happen? Who does it benefit? Who stands to lose? And that curiosity is a very human trait. AI doesn't do that. The empathy that we show in our stories is a very human trait. So while AI, as I said earlier, will optimize your workflow, will do a whole lot of things. It can write good summaries, it can polish your scripts, it can help you transcribe stories and so on, and that's good. Those skills are important. But there are some things that are human. That judgment, that instinct is human, and that will stay.
Right. WION, First Post, back-to-back super successes, and now your own venture. How does it feel in terms of, is there a pressure of, because there's people, lot of expectations on that Palki is here and it is a super hit thing. How do you deal with this? Is entrepreneurship easier, or is being a journalist, prominent anchor easier? How do you feel it at the moment? How are you feeling about it?
I think journalism is something that comes very naturally to me. I've been doing it for more than 2 decades. It feels like second nature. It's something that I live, and so it feels easy. Entrepreneurship is a new education for me. I'm still learning. I'm still as journalists, you ask questions. As an entrepreneur, you have to answer questions. And those answers have implications on your budgets, on your strategy. So I think being a journalist is far easier. But having said that, I think being an entrepreneur is a learning curve, but it's very enormously exciting.
There was a fascinating discovery as an observer of media, that when you started at WION, there was no noise that traditionally is associated with our news, It was very calm and you could explain, and people watched the show. They loved those shows. It also means that we have misunderstood our audience. We always say that, look, we are Indians, we love tamasha. But your audience, they watched you and there was no noise. So do you think we also misunderstand the audience? They really want something which is like, which explains things, no song and dance, no tamasha. Do you think that kind of journalism will work on our television screens?
It has worked on our television screens, and we've seen proof of that in the shows and the platforms you mentioned. I think there is room for everyone. There is everyone in this very country. Big Boss also works. Drama works. It sells. Whatever you do, A, you have to be convinced about it, and B, you have to do it well. The whole debate format and the noise format evolved so much because it's more cost effective. The investment in building actual content for 1 hour is far higher than getting 10 guests and getting them to talk. And so that it does not get boring, to talk at each other, to shout and so on, and one person developed it and then others copied it. That's how it essentially evolved. But there are takers for that too. But we found, thankfully, that there are a lot of takers for what we do, and we are immensely grateful for that. So there is room for everything, as long as you are sure that you're doing it because you believe in it.
So if I talk about India Global Review over the next, say, 1 year to 2 years, what do you foresee? What is the plan?
What is the plan? We hope to tell good stories. We hope to connect with our audience. A lot of them have been writing to us asking when we'll start. We'll start very soon. Through you, I want to tell them. We just want to enjoy our work. The team that has already come together is the kind of team that is full of energy, full of ideas. We want to experiment with formats. For me, success would be that 2 years down the line, we have a steady ship, and we have people who are happy doing what they're doing, and we attract the best talent in the business, who would want to come and work with us and tell good stories and give India the kind of voice that it deserves. We are a country of 1.4 billion people. We should take our rightful place.
And maybe few years down the line, we'll see Indian voice actually, Indian telling their own story and not being seen through a Western lens, as has been the case. Do you see that happening very soon now?
It should happen. So we are a small step in this journey. I mean, I have no illusions about the fact that one company or one person alone can change it. But we want to do our bit. And there is a larger consciousness, I think. It's not limited to the media. There is an understanding that we need to take control of our narrative, our story. We need to see things in the right perspective. Why is someone saying what they're saying? And what does it mean for us as a country? So there is that alignment. The viewer understands this, and we understand what we are trying to do. So yes, I think that things will change for the better.
Wonderful, and thank you. Thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and wishing you all the best for your new venture. And we're also waiting to see you on that venture. And thanks again.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the questions, and thank you for the time.